Everyone. Welcome to our last second Saturday of the year. It has been a wonderful run of second Saturdays in 2022. And so we are going to wrap it up today with some holiday crafts for you. Just some housekeeping items. We are recording this, so just so you're aware. Also, on the bottom of your screen, if you need captions, there should be a little button that says show captions. So feel free to click that and the transcripts will come up for you. So to introduce myself, I'm Vanessa Fry. My pronouns are she and they. I'm a board member and I'm a director of equitable relations and fund development. I'm going to pass it over to Cass to introduce themselves and the rest of the team.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Second Saturday, and thanks for joining us today. My name is Cass Fry. My pronouns are they, them. I am a co-founder of Detroit Chempreneurs. I am also the personal care chemistry instructor, and I have the secretary and treasurer position on the board. Unable to join us today, we have three other board members. We have Brittany Mitchell Kelly. Their pronouns are she, her. They are the entrepreneurship instructor, co-founder, as well as board member president. We also have Lynn Roosevelt Wiggins, pronouns are he, him. He is the Director of Strategic Partnerships. And finally, rounding out our board, we have Katie Standiford, pronouns she, her, and she is the Director of Curriculum here at Detroit Chempreneurs.
Thanks, Cass. So more about Detroit Chempreneurs. Our mission here is to offer students from all backgrounds an opportunity to be empowered in an inclusive, safe space and excel in STEAM experiences while collaborating about personal care chemistry and entrepreneurship. And our vision is to educate local youth in a holistic program to prepare and explore their passions while also diversifying and increasing the fields of science, technology, engineering, entrepreneurship, art, and mathematics. Our goal is to create opportunities for rural and urban resident-owned small businesses to boost the local economy. I'm going to pass it back to Cass to tell us a little bit more. How do we achieve those missions and visions?
All right, thank you, Vanessa. So we do this through two different subject matters, and that's personal care chemistry and entrepreneurship. So I'm going to share a little bit more about personal care chemistry today. I get asked very often, what is personal care chemistry? What does that mean? We're referring to the cosmetic products that you use every day to keep yourself safe, healthy, and clean. In our program, students will have the opportunity to formulate, conceptualize different products, whether that be something that we bring in and share with them and they customize that product, or a diverse idea of their own, maybe something that's not on the market, maybe something that is on the market and they use it themselves, but they'd like to make some changes to it. So through that, we're going to also use the scientific method where we're going to hypothesize, we're going to experiment, we're going to make observations during our product development, and we're going to draw different conclusions based on our outcomes. Did our product work? Did it not work? Was our scent too strong? All of those different things we'll be discussing and talking about in the curriculum, as well as getting into some of the things related to the science of skincare as well. Now I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Vanessa so she can share a little bit more about entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so our students also have the ability to dive into entrepreneurship. So we know that the field of entrepreneurship has been created by our fellow innovative changemaker and status quo shakers. So our lessons really explore the creative mind of students to generate ideas and explore the opportunities that they might have within their own communities, whether that's through personal care chemistry products or through other opportunities that they see that is needed. So our lessons explore market research, prototyping of their products or ideas, generating a business model, and practicing pitching their ventures to stakeholders, investors. So they get to explore a lot of different things to help them be the best entrepreneurs they can be. And so we want to talk about some of our upcoming events. On the January 28th of next year, 2023, I can hardly believe it. We will be at the From Women to Queens supply drive from 1 to 3. That's at 2470 Collingwood Street. It's inside Life Remodel, formerly known as Durfee Middle School. In early 2023, we'll be doing a virtual reality chemistry program with VR Life Arcade, and that's at 320 North Telegraph in Pontiac. Also in spring of 2023, we're going to be doing a hybrid program with For Her Cosmetics, and that'll really be focused for students in grade 6 through 12. On May 13th in 2023, we're going to have our Spring Fling scholarship competition. So we're still working on the time and location, so keep an eye out for that. And then lastly, right now, we're planning for summer of 2023 to program with the Girl Scouts of Southeastern Michigan. So we're really looking forward to all of these upcoming events. You can check our website for more things that pop up that we're involved in. And also follow us on social media. It's another way to keep involved with what we got going on.
All right. So today we are going to be doing some holiday crafts. These holiday crafts are geared more towards STEAM activities. So that's science, technology, engineering, entrepreneurship, arts, and mathematics. So we took a couple activities from our current programming that relates to chemistry, as well as came up with some different entrepreneurship activities that involve prototyping. So things that you might not have thought of before as a prototype or design thinking and development. And here at Detroit Chempreneurist, whatever you're celebrating this year, we support that, and we want to have a good time and just make some crafts and have some fun. So these are things that are for all people, and not just a specific, group celebrating holidays. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our first craft today. We're going to be making some do-it-yourself holiday cards, and these would be an entrepreneurship type craft. So maybe you're interested in starting your own card business and hand making cards, or maybe you're just interested in making cards for your friends and family or people that are near and dear to your heart. So the supplies today, and this isn't, only these supplies can be used. This is just kind of a general idea, some things that you might need to make your own holiday cards. So we have some scrap paper, scissors, pens, pencils, markers, crayons, maybe some magazines, stickers, glue, yarn, or stickers. I have that on there twice. So really bring some stickers out for this event. So Vanessa and I are going to go ahead and get started and kind of just walk through this craft. And so for those of you joining us today, hopefully you have your supplies at home. And we're going to take just a couple minutes to go through and make our own holiday cards. So I have some red paper. Vanessa has some green paper. It looks like you folded it like a hamburger. I think I'm going to go hot dog for my holiday card, mix it up a little bit.
All right.
So
yeah,
I think let's just do it. So, don't limit yourself. There's no wrong way to fold a piece of paper. Maybe you want long ways like this. Maybe you want it like Vanessa's, maybe like a more traditional card that you would buy in the store. Maybe you want to fold it corner to corner and make, a creative design with your card. No wrong way to fold the paper. So once we get done with that, I'm going to start by decorating the front of my card. And so I've got some markers here with me. I've got some foam stickers, some ribbon, cool little Christmas tree. If you don't have any stickers at home, that's okay. You can also use things like we've got some scrap pieces of fabric that could be pretty cool to make something. We encourage you to find things around the house, maybe repurpose them and use what you have. We've got some little cotton balls. Maybe you have these in the bathroom. Maybe you have some craft supplies that include these. You could glue them onto your card or anything that you like. And so what I'm going to be doing today, I've got these pretty cool, like I said, tree stickers. So I'm going to put those on the front of my card. Vanessa, what do you got going on over there?
Yeah, I got one tree sticker. I'm going to put that. I'm over here trying to figure out how to make a bow with the ribbon. Really struggling. So I'm not quite sure. The struggle is really real. So I'm not quite sure what the ribbon's going to be doing. Maybe I'm just going to glue it, stick it down on my card.
I've got some presents, a glitter present I'm going to put on the front of my card by that tree. And then I think I'm going to glue some of these cotton balls to the front. So you could be using a hot glue gun. Make sure you have, if you're, a little kiddo, make sure you have a parent or adult to help you out, or even an older sibling or anyone that can safely operate this hot glue gun. You could also use a glue stick, a Elmer's glue bottle, or even maybe some super glue. I'm gluing cotton ball to the top, kind of looks like snow. I glued a little one onto my tree. a little fuzzy in the picture, but you kind of get the idea. I got another little green one that I'm going to glue onto my card. What do you got going over there now? Did you figure out your bow?
No, I didn't. I have currently abandoned that idea for the
Ah,
moment. I might come back to it. I'm gonna
okay.
write some words on the front of my card and look through my sticker books and see what I can add
Ah,
on.
what are you thinking you're going to write? What's going to be your message?
Well, on the front, I'm gonna write "Holly Jolly Holidays."
Wow, that's pretty cool and creative. All right. I've got some more stickers, some more little presents I'm putting on my card on the outside, just trying to, design the cover and make it fun and very holiday themed. Now, keep in mind, you don't have to do something red and green and white. Excuse me. Maybe you celebrate a different holiday. Maybe you're celebrating Hanukkah this year or Kwanzaa, and you have different colors that you use for whatever you celebrate. And maybe you don't celebrate, a social or religious holiday, and maybe you just want to make something that has some snow. Maybe you even want a beach scene. So take this opportunity to be creative and don't limit yourself to red, white, and green.
Yeah, you could do whatever. I'm gonna try and curl my ribbon, I think, actually.
Oh, that's a pretty good idea. I've got some ribbon too here. Maybe I'll make a bow to show off.
If you could show me how to make a bow, I would be very grateful for that.
I think I'm gonna tie a knot and then do like a loop-de-loop like a shoe.
Okay. Maybe it's because I don't know. I was really struggling with the bow.
My scissors here again. Make sure you're being safe when you're making your card. Use your safety scissors, or you can always pre-cut out stuff or have someone else help you cut out. So I'm gonna attempt here to make a ribbon. I'm gonna or a bow. I'm gonna put a knot in my little holiday ribbon here, and maybe I should have made this longer, but that's okay. I like to say fail forward, right? This is prototyping. Remember, design thinking. Maybe it doesn't look the greatest on the first try, but don't give up and keep trying to make that bow. And you don't have to compare yourself to other people. Not everyone's bow is going to look the same, right? I mean, we're all different and unique in our own way, and maybe our bow should be that way as well. What do
I
you
think
think, Vanessa?
that's what makes us beautiful is that we're all different. We all have different
What do you think?
strengths, and yeah, I
Kind of
love
looks like a
it,
balloon animal, but I'm rolling with
which
it.
is also fun.
Yes, very true. A good old balloon
I'm just
animal.
gonna glue this ribbon down. I got my hot glue gun.
I'm putting my ribbon on my tree. So a little update I got here.
Oh, that's cute.
Let me unblur my background so you can see. I've
Oh,
got
look it. I love it.
coming together nicely, I would say. I'm gonna move on to maybe writing some messages on the front of my card. And I've got like a good old fashioned Crayola marker here to help me out. I'm gonna write, this is tough.
No pressure. Whatever
I'm gonna
comes to
write
your mind.
wishing you well in this holiday season.
I got a little cluster of ribbon here. It's just kind of taking on its own shape. It's doing what it wants to do.
And Sue, don't feel obligated to write on the front of your card. Maybe you just draw and design something, make something really cool. Maybe you don't use stickers. Maybe you're an amazing artist and you just draw everything out yourself. Like I said, use what's around you, be creative. Think about the things that you already have that you can repurpose into something else or maybe use in a different fashion. And pencils or pens work just as great. I've seen some amazing artists do some amazing work with just a pencil or a pen. So don't get
Hmm.
discouraged if you don't have some of these things at home.
I almost pulled out my crayons, but I
Crayons
chose
are a
my
good one
markers.
too. All right, I've got my little message on here. And I'm gonna maybe I'm gonna attempt to draw a snowflake. I'm really going all out for this card. I'm gonna have
Sometimes you
to,
got to challenge yourself.
yeah, I'm gonna draw a bunch of snowflakes, I think. I'm using inspiration from our previous slide where we had all those snowflakes and the snowman. It's that time of year here. We're in Detroit. We had a little bit of snow this morning, but not much. And we've had a pretty mild winter. However, I'm only anticipating snow to come. And, whether you're joining us from Detroit or somewhere else in the state of Michigan or even in the country, I know sometimes we get people from Cali who join us and other states. And so, maybe your holiday time doesn't look like this. Maybe it looks like a pool and a tropical tree. So again, don't feel obligated to do what we're doing. What do you think of these snowflakes? Can you see them?
I love them. I found a little snowflake sticker that I put on mine.
Ooh, there we go. So I think this is going to be the front of my card, and now I'm going to move to this blank open inside. I think I'm going to do some stickers in here too. I've got another tree. This was cut down a whole forest of stickers for this. So
I love it.
yeah,
I love stickers.
I've got this big, I'm going to put this on top of the tree, almost like a tree topper, which it takes up about half the size of the tree. That's how I like my toppers.
Yeah. Make it festive.
Right. Look at.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. And again, doesn't have to be a pine tree. If you don't, this is kind of more of a Christmassy theme or things like that. But whatever you're celebrating, we support, and we think that it's amazing to be unique in your own spaces and what you believe in, spiritually or socially, and whatever that looks like. So just thank you all for joining us today. I'm going to even throw this peace sign in my card because I want to bring some peace and joy this holiday season.
Yeah. I think
to everyone around me.
I think I'm going to put a sticker of an animal. Maybe this fox with this cool little, look at this, got this cool little glasses on.
Yeah, it's very foxy, if you will. All right,
we're gonna me joy.
Yeah, we're just gonna take a couple more minutes to wrap up our holiday cards. Probably we'll give ourselves like 3 to 5 more minutes. If you need a little bit more time, that's okay. You can keep working on your craft, while we move to the next one, or finish it up later. You always have that option. You can even make some more of these crafts at home when we're done. Maybe you want to keep going and make 10 more cards for your for your friends or your family or your neighbors or anyone that you think might get a little bit of joy from receiving a handmade card. Another thing, if you're computer savvy, you could always type up a message and print it out and paste it in, or maybe print out some pictures from the online, or even look through maybe some coloring books or things that you have around the house, and you could cut those out and color them in.
Idea.
Right. There's no wrong way to make a holiday card. And again, I challenge everyone to look around themselves and to find something that they think that they could repurpose into something new. And again, this is called prototyping and design thinking. And this is one of the core things in our curriculum, whether you're talking about entrepreneurship or you're talking about personal care chemistry. When we're making products, we're always design thinking and developing and formulating. We call that research and development. And in that process, the first thing might not be right. You might have to go back to the drawing board and try something new, do something in a different way. And so with your holiday card, if you're not super in love with it, this is the first prototype of your new card business or of your new hobby of making cards, or even just something that you're joining us here today for. So challenge you to look around. I'm all about repurposing, and it's something that I do, pretty constantly. I save things that probably don't need to be saved, but I always find a way to reuse them and repurpose them in the future. And again, that's just something that entrepreneurs can do. They can look at something, and you may see just a piece of fabric, but I may see flour, and maybe I know how to fold this into a flower and make it more something beautiful. And you could turn that into a business. I know this could be like a forever flower. I've seen those before too. So keep that in mind in this process. It doesn't just apply to your holiday cards, and it won't just apply to the other prototyping or entrepreneurship activity we're going to do in a little bit. and it can apply to everything in life. So we do some activities in the program, where we look at something like a stick. And you can say, okay, this is a stick, but what else is it? Well, it could be a magic wand. It could be turned into a fishing pole. You could be a conductor and direct the orchestra. There's all different ways to turn something else into something new or use it in a project. All right, Vanessa, how you doing on your card over there? Feeling good about it? Getting
I'm
ready to
feeling pretty good about it. Yeah,
move
I'm
on
an,
to the
hmm
the
I
next?
could use one more minute.
All right, we'll take the minute. How's everyone doing who's joining us today? Feel free to come off mute or drop it in the chat if you need a little bit more time to make your card. Or if you have any questions about the program, card making, we might be able to help you and give you some advice or ideas. Or even about, maybe ways to get into the card making business, right? We're always, as entrepreneurs, thinking about new ventures that we can start and thinking about how we can make something sustainable within our community to support not only ourselves, but our community as a whole and what our community needs are. So yeah, and with those, we'll kind of wrap this up. And when Vanessa's ready, we will move on to the next graph.
I'm
Uh,
almost there. I'm just gonna sign my name.
Take your time. I'll show you the inside of mine. I put love DET Chem, which is short for Detroit Chempreneurs. So, again, here at the organization, we just want to thank you for all of your support this year, for joining us during our second Saturday sessions. We had 11 of them total with 30 different presenters from all different fields, genders, identities, all of those different things. And so we're just so thankful for everyone who took the time to volunteer to participate in this second Saturday series with us. And they are recorded and on YouTube, and I will continue to remind everyone of that. So if you missed them, you want to go back or even see what those different topics were. We had a lot of great topics, a really diverse series. So please check those out online. How are you feeling, Vanessa? Your
I'm feeling
signature,
ready.
feeling
Yep.
ready?
Well,
That's a
you can't
beautiful
really
card.
see. I love
Yeah.
stickers, so I tried to pull in a lot of stickers.
There we go. All
Oh, how
right,
cute.
everyone. Let me just check the chat, make sure nobody had any questions. Looks like we're doing good. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next craft, and I'm going to figure out where to set this card. All right. And so our next holiday craft is going to be the drum roll for the slide change.
Here it is. It's gonna
Make
be
your own body or lip scrub. So, Vanessa, you want to go ahead and read the supply list?
Yeah, so for this, some supplies we are going to need are a small glass or plastic container with a lid. I have a little glass one here. We can recycle these from around the house. Maybe you have a container from sour cream and you want to put your body scrub in that. That's perfect. We love to reuse and recycle here at Detroit Chempreneurs. We're going to need a measuring cup or spoon, something to scoop out our ingredients. We're going to need one or more of the following. We could have sugar, that could be white or brown. We could have some oatmeal, some coffee. Whatever you're feeling, anything to get your exfoliation on. We're going to have some oil, so that might be vegetable oil, olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil. I have some olive oil here with me today. And then we could add some optional ingredients in small amounts. That might be honey, lemon juice, essential oils, herbs, aloe vera, or vitamin E. I grabbed a little bottle of lavender essential oil, so that's what I'm going to be using in my scrub today. Cass, what do you have?
Yeah, so I've got what do I have? I have brown sugar, I believe. I have brown sugar and vegetable oil. So just to go over a couple of things real quickly on the supply list that Vanessa mentioned. So one or more of the following: sugar, white or brown, oatmeal, or coffee. So just to kind of touch on these ingredients, these should be things that you have around the house. Again, we encourage you to find the things that you have near you. There's no reason to go out and buy additional things. So these could be things you have in your kitchen. Now, sugar is great for all areas of the body. It's good for your face, your lips, your body, your feet. It is probably the most kind of universal scrub ingredient that you'll find out there. It's not too irritating. It's not too coarse. Now, if you use oatmeal, oatmeal is less coarse than sugar. And what do I mean like by that? Well, if you think about sandpaper, and if you feel sugar versus oatmeal, oatmeal is a lot softer. It breaks down. Oatmeal is good if you have really sensitive skin. Maybe you have acne, maybe you have a skin condition or something like that that you have to be conscious of. So you're going to want to go with something like oatmeal, a little less intense. And then coffee. Coffee has caffeine in it. You're not going to want to use that on your face if you have acne or any sensitive skin issues, because it will cause a little bit of reaction. However, coffee is good for areas like your thighs, the back of your arms and things like that, to exfoliate that dead skin. And so the whole purpose of these scrubs, if you haven't gathered that, is we are exfoliating the dead skin off of our body, which makes our skin healthier. Now, as Vanessa mentioned, going through this list of oils, maybe you have different oils at home. You could also use something like castor oil. You could use rapeseed oil. You could use argan oil, jojoba oil, any oils that you may have, whether you use those in your hair or on your skin or out of the kitchen. They all work great. And so we're going to go ahead and get started making our scrubs. Before I do that, though, I do want to mention a little bit on the optional ingredients. Vanessa mentioned in a small amount, so we're just going to need a couple of drops depending on the size container that you have. You could use something like one of these little cups that you can get at like a food store for your scrubs. You can also use a jar like Vanessa has. I have a jar here as well. So these are pretty small amounts of scrub. So when we say a small amount, if it's essential oil, you just want to use 1 or 2 drops. If it's something like herbs or aloe vera, you can use a little bit more. They're less skin irritating. So we want to make sure we don't irritate our skin. That's the whole point of this. So if you're unsure, use a little bit less. Honey, that has antioxidants, great for skin. Lemon juice is good for lightening, maybe dark spots or stars or things like that. Essential oils have a lot of therapeutic properties, but they also smell really great. Aloe vera. So if you have some aloe vera in the bathroom or in the hall closet that you use for maybe sunburn, that has very soothing properties for your skin. So you can put a little bit of that in there. And same as vitamin E, something that some people have in their cabinet or their cupboard or their closet. And so just a few drops of that will work just well for this. So we didn't put any measurements on here. And that's because that's going to depend on the size of your container. And it's also going to depend on your personal preferences. So we talked a little bit about students having the opportunity to really customize formulas and make them how they want them to be, that's unique to them or what they like. So what I suggest, if you're starting off with a small 2-ounce cup like this, I usually encourage people to start with 1 tablespoon of exfoliant and 1 tablespoon of oil. If you're working with a little bit of a bigger of a jar, we're going to just start with a half and half mixture. We don't want to overfill our jar. So if you have like a jar this size, maybe just consider doing halfway, because we might want to add some more ingredients. So we don't want to jump right in and fill our jar up. So I'm going to add my oil and my exfoliant, and I'm going to, like I said, go to about the halfway mark. So it's going to be about 1/4 of my exfoliant and 1/4 of my oil. And then I'm going to begin to mix. So go ahead and start to do that. If you have any questions, feel free to come off of mute, drop them in the chat if it's related to how to make a scrub or an ingredient, or if something's okay to use. Again, no wrong questions to ask. We're here to share knowledge and help everyone. Body scrubs are great as gifts. So you can make a body scrub for your classroom, for your teacher, for your friends, for your family. For someone that maybe has made a difference in your life, or you could start a business around this. So we'll continually go back to that, and how as entrepreneurs we can create successful ventures and sell products, whether that be something like a holiday card or something like a body scrub. So Vanessa, how's it going over there? What you got? What's it looking like?
It's looking pretty good. I think I might add a little bit more of both because this is a small amount compared to my jar.
Yeah,
But
but
the
what's the
texture,
consistency and texture? You like not
yeah, I like it. It's I think it's got enough oil, so it's kind of gummy is the only way I can
yeah,
think to
kind of like the
describe
picture
this.
on the screen, maybe?
Yeah, mine's a little bit more mixed than that. It's a little I don't have so much pools of oil.
Okay. And so now, looking at your formulation, this is a great opportunity. You like the way it's looking. You know what your proportions are, your measurements were. So now would be a great opportunity to maybe double it up so your jar is a little bit fuller. For those of you joining us at home or maybe watching this later on YouTube, maybe that one-to-one mixture, it's a little too oily for you or it's a little too dry. So this is where you can play with your proportions. Maybe you just want to add one more scoop of your exfoliator. Maybe you want to add a little bit more oil. Depending on what you're working with, if you're working with coconut oil, that's a little bit more solid. So you might want to add a little bit more of it in there to kind of really get a good mixture. We want our mixtures to be homogeneous. That's a big word. That means uniform throughout. So make sure you get in the bottom cracks of your jar or your cup, whatever you're making this in. Maybe you're making it in a bowl at home because that's all you have, and that's okay. You can make it in a bowl and you can transfer it into maybe a plastic baggie or, as Vanessa mentioned, a recyclable container. You finish up your yogurt in the fridge and you can wash it out and reuse it. Maybe you have a jam. You finished up your jam. You ate all your toast for breakfast. You can wash that glass jar and use it. You don't have to go out and buy a canning jar or anything like that. You can look around and use what you have in the house. All right. So how's it looking, Vanessa, over there?
It's getting there. I'm almost there, and then I'm gonna, I think, add some of my essential oil here in just a minute.
Perfect. And that's what you want to do. You want to get your base formula, which is your exfoliant and your oil, where you want it before you add your additives in. Because it all has to do with proportions, right? If you make a bigger amount of body scrub, you would add a little bit more of the optional ingredients. If you make a small amount of, body scrub or lip scrub or foot scrub, whatever this is, you are going to want to add less. Now, one thing I didn't mention on here, but I just said foot scrub, so the light bulb went off in my head, is you can also make a salt scrub. Now, pink Himalayan salt, coarse salt that you may have in the kitchen, kosher salt, those scrubs are great for your feet. Please do not use a foot salt on your face or any type of salt scrub on your face or on your lips because salt is very drying. It's going to pull the moisture out of your face and out of your lips, and that can lead to some irritation. And so we don't want to do that. We like salt for our feet. That's okay that it's drying, but it also is more coarse and can be a more aggressive exfoliator. And what do I mean by that? Well, our feet, we walk on them all day long. So sometimes we get those rough spots and we need a little bit more oomph to get that dead skin off there. And so salt scrubs are great. You can also use Epsom salt. So that's something that you may have lying around. And if you want to make a foot scrub, you could combine some pink Himalayan and some Epsom or just use one and not the other. Add those oils in, scrub your feet really good, and then you can use that scrub to soak in a tub or a bucket to really soften those feet back up after you've done that exfoliation. So it looks like you're adding your essential oil now. How much did you put in there?
I put maybe 4 drops for my
Okay.
jar.
All right. And then you want to make sure we're mixing that all in, right? We're going back to that homogeneous state, that uniform throughout state. So anyone at home, any questions, want to come off and share how your scrub is doing or drop it in the chat, feel free. We're happy to help. That's why we're here today. For those of you maybe watching this in the future on YouTube, feel free to email us at info@detroitchempreneurist.org. If you have any questions for us, we can get back to you and help you out. We always love having conversations with community members and helping them. So, maybe you don't go through our program, but you have a question, you want to know more about something, we are a great resource. And if we don't have the answer, we're all about sharing resources. So we have lots of resources that we've connected and shared during our entire Second Saturday series. But we also have other resources that our presenters have shared with us after the Second Saturday series that we continue to share throughout our social media and our link tree. So don't forget to check those out. I've also dropped our link tree in the chat, and I will go ahead and do that again a couple of times throughout this presentation. For those of you at home on YouTube later in the future, from now, doing this, our link tree, you can find us by just Googling Linktree Detroit Chempreneurist. That has links to all of our social media. It has links to our YouTube, our Second Saturday series. It will have links to different events as they pop up in the future, as well as some surveys on there for the community, parents, and students to tell us what you think about our program and our events, and also what you'd like to see. So, we want to support the community, and we want to share with the community what they want. You know what you need and want best. And so feel free to take one of those surveys and share that feedback with us. You can also contact us through our website. There is a contact us button where you can fill out a form, and we will get an email with your information, and we will reach back out to you. So lots of ways to get a hold of us, see what we're going on, ask us questions. Maybe it relates to some of these, but maybe it just relates to the concepts that we're sharing today. All right, Vanessa, how's it going over there? Oh, that's
It's
looking really
good.
good. How does it smell?
It's an interesting blend of olive oil and lavender smell.
Okay.
Because the
Yeah,
olive oil has a very strong scent.
it does.
So
Yeah. Yeah,
I like it.
all ingredients have their own odor, and it may be something that we can identify, right? Like we say, lavender smells like lavender. But for other things where we just can't put our finger on it, we call that a characteristic odor. And so oil has a very characteristic odor. And if you've ever had some oil in your cabinet for a long time and maybe open up, sometimes you get a kind of like a Play, I call it Play-Doh smell. So if you've ever smelled Play-Doh, and that has to do with oxidation, actually. So a fun little chemistry fact about oil is it oxidizes over time, and the smell tends to get stronger. So depending on the age of your oil, you're going to have a little bit different odor. Olive oil has just a natural odor itself, but over time that will change and strengthen. Same with vegetable oil or any other oil. So that's just a fun little chemistry fact to throw in there. So, your product may smell a little different than somebody else's, and that's okay. It just needs to be, something that you like, and that you like, or your friends or family or whoever's using it likes, right? All right, so we will go ahead and give about 2 more minutes for everyone to wrap up their body scrub, make sure it's mixed really well. If you need to add anything else to kind of zhuzh it up, if you will, make it a little bit more fun. In that 2 minutes, I'm going to mention a couple other things. So you can make a label for your body scrub. You can use something like an Avery label that you can get, at an office supply store online. They do have some other off-brand labels as well. You could do stickers, right? Maybe, Vanessa, you've got those fun stickers with you. Maybe you want to put a sticker on your body scrub. Maybe you want to wrap it and put a ribbon and tie a bow on it. All different ways that you can decorate your container and make it unique to your product. You could start thinking about, what do I want to call my body scrub? Maybe it's just sugar scrub. Maybe it's the fry scrub. Maybe it's, something unique and fun and a play on words. So all of those different options, be creative, decorate your container. It's not just what's about inside the package, it's what's on the outside as well. And take inspiration from other products that you see around the house. You can also make an ingredients list. So you'll notice on products, there are ingredient lists. We call those Inky Decks because we're fancy chemists here at Detroit Chempreneurist. And that's just a list starting from the ingredient that's the most all the way to the smallest ingredient. So they're actually in an order. And so if you wanted to make your own ingredient list today, you could do that. And I want you to, when you're doing that, think about your proportions. Did I have more sugar? Did I have more oil? Did I use the same amount? Well, if I use the same amount, then either ingredient can go first, and that's totally acceptable and allowed. All right, so I think that's about our 2 minutes is up. If anyone needs more time, raise your hand, drop it in the chat, let me know. Again, questions at any point in time, feel free to come off mute and engage with us. We're here for you. And with that being said, we'll go ahead and we'll move on to our third craft of the day. All right, so this is an entrepreneur craft. This is back into prototyping, design thinking, and doing something fun. There's also a little bit of kind of chemistry that goes in with this when we're talking about liquids that don't mix. So for our supplies today, similar to our body scrub, we're going to find a glass jar recycled from around the house. So maybe that's your jam jar. Maybe you have a mason jar, that had something in it that you can use. We're going to use some plastic figurines or some Legos. So I ordered some stuff off of Amazon or online, these little holiday plastic figurines. Maybe you have some toys, maybe you have some army figures, anything like that. You can use for this. Nothing wrong. And even if you wanted to find something else around the house that you thought would be cool, or maybe go outside and get some sticks and glue them together and make like a little fire, for your snow globe or something like that. Then we're going to use mineral oil or baby oil. So you can get this the dollar store, you can get this in the pharmacy section, or at any type of grocery store. Usually they have baby oil or mineral oil around. You're going to use glitter or sequins if you have it. So that's what's going to give us that snow globe effect. You also maybe have some small like Lego pieces that you want to use as your snow globey effect. So be creative, don't limit yourself. You're going to need water, a spoon if you're choosing to kind of scoop the ingredients in and don't want to get it all over your hands. But if you have something a little bit more solid or you can pour in, you won't really need that spoon. We also will be kind of mixing, but when we mix, we can shake the jar, and I'll get to that. And then you're going to need either super glue or hot glue. So please, if you need some assistance from an older friend or family member, make sure you get that. If you are using a mason jar, one of the first things that you're going to need to do with your lid is, so typically mason jars come into two pieces. We're going to want to seal this. So we don't want any of that liquid getting out. So we're actually going to take our glue and we're going to go around the inside of the lid, and we're going to stick this top back in there. And when we do that, in just one second, because I dropped mine on the floor, my glued version. So here's my super glue. So I've glued this one together, and as you can see, this is now stuck in there. It's not coming out. If you want to, you can, lay an additional bead on the inside, but that's not necessary because when we go to close the snow globe today, we will be gluing it shut. So that way in the future, we can't accidentally make a huge mess, or maybe our younger sibling or cousin opens the jar and everything goes everywhere and destroys our hard work. So before we get started, any questions, as always, drop them in the chat or come off mute. And if you need a second to gather your supplies, as we kind of breeze through these holiday crafts, feel free to do so. So when we're ready, I'm going to go ahead and get started, and again, give time and grace for anyone that needs it to get caught up. And as we can see, Vanessa's out there gluing her lid, or gluing their lid, so that way they've got a nice seal and this won't come undone in the future, if you will. So in order to make our snow globe, and when we think about snow globes, we have this, this glass part kind of sitting on a base. Now I've got a bigger jar, so you don't have to use a jar this size. Vanessa, what size jar do you have?
I have this sort of smaller than yours.
Smaller jar, right? We can use something even smaller. Maybe we want to make a little snow globe, you could use something like this. So there's no wrong size jar. What the jar size will impact is how much water and mineral oil we are putting in the jar. So again, I didn't put measurements on here. We're going to kind of walk it through this and play around together. There's no wrong way to make a holiday craft. There's no wrong way to make a snow globe or a holiday globe or whatever, glitter globe, whatever you want to call it. So our first step is after, I guess, our second step, because we glued our lid, right? That was step one. Step two. On the inside of your lid, we're going to go ahead and glue our figurines. So whether, it's a little toy that you have, also something you could do, maybe you want to glue some glitter down on the bottom, or maybe you have some like fake snow spray that comes in a can. You could do that. I wouldn't recommend using cotton balls or anything that's going to absorb the water. You're going to want to use something that's, more solid. So maybe, like I said, you glue some glitter here. Maybe you put some white paint here. If you do paint the bottom, you're going to want to let it dry. So, the crafts can take a few minutes. They can take a long time. There's no wrong way or right way to do it. So my first step, I've got my little figurines, and I'm going to go ahead and start gluing them to the bottom of my jar. I'm going to want to make sure that I get enough glue so it stays in there. But I'm also going to want to make sure that I have enough room to put the lid back in. So make sure that you position your figurines in a good space. So I've got my little house here. Let me set the glue gun down. So here's mine so far. I got a little house glued into the lid. And I also have this little tree. I've got a little tree theme going on here that um I'm gonna glue that into. I think I'm gonna find a different size tree. But I also got this cute little rubber ducky and present. So actually maybe I'm gonna axe the tree, exit if you will, and do this little present and little ducky, and maybe see if I've got something else that's small around me that I might want to glue in. So again, get a lot of glue on the bottom, stick it. We're going to give it time to dry and adhere to the lid. We don't want to throw it right into the water, the mineral oil, and then the glue come undone and our figurines are floating and everything is a mess. So take your time on this one. Get a lot of glue, get it in there. And now here's mine kind of coming along. We've got my little ducky and my present, and of course my strings of hot glue everywhere. Anyone who works with hot glue knows that it strings everywhere. And hold on one second. I'm going to grab my box of figurines and see if there's anything else I want. All right, I'm back.
I got a little tree with a penguin and a little ducky. I had to take mine off and re-glue it because realized I wasn't going to fit my jar where I had it placed originally. So
See,
it's nice that you said that.
That's why I said it. Wanted to make sure that, and that's okay, right? Maybe you glue it and you got to break it off and do it again. Super glue will work for this too. Again, give it time to adhere, give it time to dry. There's lots of different glues out on the market, or even industrial polymers and things like that you can use. So whatever you have around the house is perfectly fine. And if you don't have these items around the house, you can always come back and make something in the future. Again, we'll have this posted online, but you could also just, do a quick little Google search. As we like to say, Google can be your best friend and your worst enemy at the same time. Yeah. So, Google how to make a snow globe. This is not the only way to do it. Another thing that I'll say for all of these crafts, there is no right or wrong way. This is unique to you. So in some of the recipes that you see online, maybe they don't use baby oil or mineral oil. I know I've seen some that use glycerin. Glycerin is another option that you could use. It's a water-soluble chemical. You can get it on Amazon and things like that. It's safe to use. It's very sticky. So if you do choose to do something like that, you'll notice the consistency is really sticky. Kind of reminds you of like a sugar water. But it is safe to use for something like this. However, I'm always encouraging people to look around that house. Maybe you have a younger sibling and you've got a diaper bag, or and you just swipe the mineral oil right out of there. Make sure you tell your parents or your family that you took it though. We want to make sure that everyone knows what we're using and we have. Be careful with the mineral oil, because just like any other oil, during the body scrub, it will, if it gets on your clothes, it's going to leave an oil stain. It's going to be hard to get out. One thing that you can use to get oil out, I'll give you another little chemistry tip here while we're all gluing our jar lids together and our figurines on and giving them a chance to dry and really adhere. Yeah. So Vanessa, how's it going over there?
I was adjusting my lid because I had put a bead of glue on the inside, but then it wasn't sitting right on the glass.
Yeah, so it dried.
Yeah.
So that's another. If you add that little extra bead in there, it might not sit right. So you do want to test. Always going back to things and testing to make sure that they fit right. So I'm doing that with my jar and want to make sure it's going to screw all the way on and secure tightly so that water doesn't come out. If you have a taller jar, maybe use a taller figurine. Like if you could fit a Barbie doll in there or something like that you might have.
Oh, that would be fun.
Right? That could be a cool snow globe, or maybe you even make your own snowman with some styrofoam balls or something like that. Any craft supplies that you could have. Maybe you make something out of like a, popsicle sticks or something like that you have around the house. Going back to that oil tip that I was going to give, just wanted to make sure Vanessa and everyone else was doing good over there. If you do spill oil and get it on yourself, you can use dish soap. and water. So dish soap or soap is a surfactant. It's a type of ingredient that we use in products. And what it will do is it can actually bind to the oil and entrap the oil, and that will help remove it. I always suggest if you spill oil on yourself during any part of this process, probably go attend to it right away. The longer something sits on your clothes or on something around you, maybe you have, I don't know, a pillow that actually got some oil on it, it's harder to get out. So think about that. You know, crafts can be a little messy, things can get knocked over. So just some quick cleaning tips, if you will, that are chemistry related for that. All right. So how's your jar fitting, Vanessa?
It's fitting a lot better. My
Awesome.
figurines are a little
A little small for the jar.
disproportionate. Yeah, just a little bit.
That's okay. You know, you got the smaller jar too. I got one for your body scrub. We can always make another one. Mine are significantly disproportionate. It's going to be a lot of glitter.
I love
But
it.
again, no wrong way to do this. And, you know, whatever you like and whatever you think looks unique and cool, it's all just about having fun and design thinking and prototyping, right?
Right.
Okay. So now that our figurines are glued on here and we've given them a little bit of time to dry, if you want to give them more time, more grace to dry, feel free to do so. But I'm going to go ahead and move into, well, at step 3 now. So we can kind of keep the event going. And for those of you who are ready to move on to step 3, you get that information. So we're going to take our jar and we're going to be adding water to the jar. We do not want to fill the jar all the way up. We do want to leave, you know, a little bit of air. If you've ever seen a snow globe, there's always that kind of air pocket in there. That's going to help allow us to mix a lot easier. So I've got my fancy pitcher of water here, which is not open. So let me open it. And I'm going to go ahead and start adding the water to my jar. And I'm going to fill it about 3/4 full, maybe a little bit less. So again, I don't have measurements in here because it really depends on the size of your jar, how much water you're going to add. So you can see I'm around 3/4 just before this jar is kind of moving up. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our mineral oil or baby oil and we're going to add this in. And we don't need a lot of it. And again, it just depends on the size of your jar. So if you have a smaller jar, you're going to add less. But when you do add this, you're going to see kind of a separate layer of oil form at the top. And so you can see, let me see, can you see this, Vanessa? These little bubbles?
Yeah.
Little droplets. So that's about as big as you need your layer to be. So whether you have a smaller jar, you're going to add less, a bigger jar, you're going to add more. We're really kind of still about 3/4 full. And we can see I've got that oil and perfect, Vanessa, I can see yours as well. All right, so now we've got our baby oil and our water in the jar. Again, if you're using glycerin or something else, you know, that's okay. There's lots of different options and lots of different ways to make snow globes that can be found online. And so feel free and don't limit yourself. You could even use, if you wanted to, maybe some vegetable oil, but what you're going to notice is that has a yellow color. So you're not going to have a clear snow globe like something that you may see. However, if you like yellow and you want something different and cool, don't limit yourself. Use vegetable oil, use whatever you want. Prototype, see what it looks like, make another one, compare, see what do I like better? You know, it's all about what you like. So don't limit yourself. Key lesson today. And so the next thing what we're going to do, so we've got what? Step 1 was glue our jar. Step 2 was glue our figurines. Step 3, add our water. Step 4, add our mineral oil. The next thing we're going to add into our jar is our snow or our sequins or our glitter, or if we have small plastic pieces that we're going to put in there. So I've got a bag of sequins, little shiny things in there. You can kind of see them. And I'm going to go ahead and add those into my jar. So again, add however much you want. You want a lot of glitter in there, load it with glitter. You want a little bit, put a little bit. You know, if you're using some type of fake snow or you're using some type of figurines, put what you want in there. You know, no wrong way. There's never too much glitter. However, do be careful because glitter gets everywhere. And that's a hard one to clean up. I have no tips for cleaning up glitter. Good luck. It will still be there in 20 years. However, if fun fact, there is biodegradable glitter. So if you are interested in being a little bit more environmentally friendly, you can purchase biodegradable glitter. However, in this case, our glitter really isn't going to leave the jar if we do this right. It's going to be glued shut. So I'm going to get all this in there. Vanessa, you got all yours in the
Yep,
jar?
I got my little you might be able to see my snowflakes, and they had some glitter on them, so I got some extra glitter in
Oh,
here.
these sequins do not want to come out of the bottom of this bag. They're making it. I think this is static electricity at its finest. So here we got one. All right, let me try to get these. And then for those of you at home, if you want to share what you're working on, feel free to come off of mute. Feel free to drop it in the chat. If you have any questions, you want to say, is this right or wrong? I'm going to tell you there's no right or wrong way to do this. But we're here to support you and to help you and to just encourage your creative thought process and what you're doing today. All right, so I've got all my sequence in. You can kind of see the shiny layer on top. Now, once that's all in there, we're basically ready to kind of close this up and finish our jar. We want to, again, make sure our figurines are glued on there really good. So if you need to add, thinking maybe I want to kind of put some glue around the bottom of them, which I think I'm going to do because I've got some pretty heavy figurines. You can kind of add a extra little glue in there, make sure that they're real secure, kind of fill in all these cracks and crevices. Wow, that was hard for me to say. And if you have some extra glitter, maybe you want to throw some glitter on the bottom, like I said, and make it look a little more snow-like. You can always do that as well. So I'm going to give myself a couple more seconds to let, I'm going to give myself about a minute to let this dry. Hot glue thankfully dries fairly quickly. So that's a nice thing about it. So Vanessa, how are you doing over there? How's it looking? Thoughts about the activity?
I love this. Have always bought my snow globes. I've never made one before, and so I'm really enjoying this. This is a really cool thing that I would love to give away to my friends and family.
Yeah. And again, if you're celebrating something else, like maybe you're celebrating Hanukkah and you have a Star of David or a menorah figurine that you want to put in this globe, maybe you're celebrating something else. Maybe you want to make a cool tropical globe, right? Like I said, you can put anything that you want in there. You can put a toy. I've got, maybe next time I'm going to put this in my snow globe with one of these little hands, right? So it's up to you. And then again, this is something cool that you could turn into your own business, right? These are decorations that people, have around the holiday times. You can make them all different types of themes. Maybe, you make them for other times in the year, maybe like a spring globe that has flowers in it. There's no limitation that what you can do with this. Get creative, challenge yourself, and then from there, keep prototyping, keep design thinking, give them away, get feedback. What do you like about this globe? What would you change? And not only looking at things around your house, but in the future, maybe you want to make them look a little bit go into retail, right? So you can order supplies in bigger amounts, and that goes for anything, whether that's a snow globe or a holiday globe or a glitter globe, or a cart. Another thing to mention is lava lamps work very similar to this. So you could take this
Mm.
concept, you could maybe add some vegetable oil, and maybe you add some food coloring. And you've got your figurines, and you can have like a figurine lava lamp type of thing, where the oil bubbles separate and it looks really cool. So, and if that's something that you want to do right now, maybe you're like, hey, I want to throw some food coloring and see what that does. Feel free to run to the kitchen, take your time and your space to make your globe, your snow globe, your glitter globe, your holiday globe, your sequence globe, whatever you want to call it. There's no wrong name, but get fun with it. Try some different things and go from there. Another thing that you could do if you, had a little bit more time, maybe you want to glue some things on the inside of your jar. Right. So when you shake it up, they kind of always say glued to the side, and that could be snowflakes, that could be a peace sign, that could be whatever it looks like, for you, and whatever you think is cool. So, don't limit yourself, don't limit your creative process. All right, I think my glue is good to go. If yours is not, don't move forward, take your time. You have plenty of it. We are, we're here. We've got one more activity. You can continue to work on this. You can maybe set it aside for a little bit now that you've got both your main parts done, and come back to it, So do not rush yourself. Don't rush your creative process just to keep up with us. We're just here to kind of show you these things, and we hope that you take them, and you use them in the future with somebody else and just share the activities. All right. So for those of you who are ready, we're going to go ahead and we're going to be closing this. Before we do that, we want to test it. So that's something that Vanessa and I have already done. So if you have not tested to make sure this is going to fit and you can seal it all the way tight, test it now. So put it on there, screw it, like it should go back to how it was. So if you've got a jam jar, it should screw all the way back on. You can see mine's screwed into there. Make sure it secures itself tight. That's important. Once you've confirmed that it secures itself tight, take it off. If your thing kind of went into the oil, that's okay to get a little wet. You could dry it off if you want. Won't really make a difference. It's going to go in there anyways. You're going to take your glue gun. You're going to run the glue gun around the seal of the jar. So get it into like where where it turns. So that way when we screw it on, we're going to have a nice layer of glue that's going to dry, and it's going to keep our jar sealed and from leaking. So again, you can use super glue for this. You can use a polymer glue, an industrial glue, Gorilla Glue, or hot glue. But you want to make sure, depending on whatever type of glue you're using, that you give it the time to dry and to cure before you maybe flip this over and prove whether or not it's waterproof. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my glue gun, and we can see Vanessa's there already going around, and I'm going to drop a thick layer of glue into this cap. You could also put the glue, around the edge of the jar. I find that the cap works a lot better, so that way it's all sealed up. So I'm going to go ahead and stick this on now. I got my glue in there, and then I'm going to quickly turn. Glue may come out of the top. That's okay. If you got a little bit extra in there, and I'm going to seal it real tight like this. Stretching myself out. I'm going to make sure when I look at my jar, it's not off balance. So I've got a clear seal. I am not going to flip it over yet. I am going to wait for the glue to dry. So just like I gave it a couple of minutes to kind of really glue my characters and my figurines in there, give it time. While we're giving it time to dry and everyone else their opportunity to glue their jar shut or finish adding some things or change it around, here's some other things that you can do to the outside of the jar. Maybe you have that leftover ribbon. You can wrap it around your jar and tie a bow. Maybe you want to paint the base of your jar. So your lid, my lid is kind of this gold metal. Maybe I want to change it up. Maybe I want to paint it with some acrylic paint, and change it to red, like the picture on the slide. Maybe I want to add some stickers to the outside. Maybe I want to put a label on it and write a really cool message to my, special person that I'm going to give this to, or maybe even a message to myself to remind myself, have a good day, or, like whatever that affirmation is, to yourself, just to enjoy. So Vanessa, you're wrapping the ribbon. I think I'm going to do the same thing. So I've got some white ribbon here. And I had used this in my holiday cards. So, again, some of these supplies you can use in multiple different activities, for crafts. And again, these are not the only crafts that you could do. There's lots of other holiday crafts out there. There's a lot of products, cosmetic products that are fairly easy for people to make. Hair oils, different essential oil blends. Maybe use a coconut oil or a shea butter to make some type of hand cream. So lots of different things that, you can make with things around you, and, utilize those leftover craft supplies that you maybe have laying around. You can glue this to your jar. I think I'm gonna glue this to my jar. I'm gonna wrap it around the edge of it. But you could also just tie it around. You could do anything you want. The opportunities are limitless here. In our holiday crafts, and we try to provide as many opportunities as we can to students, in all different backgrounds and spaces and places. So again, be creative, make something unique. Share with us what you're doing. Feel free, again, come off mute, drop it in the chat. Give us feedback that you like the activity or not. Vanessa, you want to share with us what you got going on over there?
Yeah, I'm trying to line up my ribbon around my lid. I got white and, well, you can't really see, but it's white and red. So
Yeah,
I'm gluing that ribbon around.
I
It's
had
not
to
laying. Oh.
break for a glue stick. That's why I turned off the camera. If anyone was wondering why, it's because I'm breaking for supplies. You don't need to see me bent over the back of my head or whatever. So go ahead, and you were saying the ribbon's not really what?
It's not laying as flush as I
Uh,
would like it to lay, but we're going with it. We're rolling with
yeah.
it. Doesn't have to
This
be
is
perfect.
exactly. It's your
That's what I
first
have to
go.
remind myself.
Have you ever made a snow or a glitter globe before?
Never.
So I
I
would say
actually
you're
didn't
doing.
even know that you
You
could
could
make them at home.
look at that. So it's all about exposure, right? That's another thing we say at Detroit Chempreneurs. And maybe Vanessa, you want to share a little bit more about like just exposing yourself to things and what that means to you.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff that we've done through Detroit Chempreneurs I had never done before. I've never made a body scrub. Our next activity I had never done either. So I've learned a lot, and it's really cool to be exposed to different things, and then that's how you get to learn and decide what you like and what plays to your strengths, or maybe you want to learn more about something, and so getting exposure to that can give you some ideas on how to go about that. So I know for me, I work in public health as my day job. I didn't know anything about public health when I was growing up, and I just sort of found some information about it. I started doing some research, and I thought maybe this would be a good role for me, and that's how I fell into the into the pathway. As I like to say, it just sort of happened sometimes, but I wouldn't have known without the exposure, without seeing it or knowing it. I wouldn't be where I was today. I think exposure is super important for
Yeah.
for all of us.
Absolutely. And for me, I like to go to classrooms and share with students, whether that's activities or just about myself and my career. And oftentimes, I'll go into a classroom and I'll say, I'm a chemist. Do you know what a chemist is? And a lot of times, most times, students don't. They've never met a chemist. They didn't realize that there were these careers and these opportunities. I take a step back and say, do you know what a scientist is, right? And a chemist is just a specific type of scientist that works with chemistry. But just to say, I met a chemist, or I learned what a chemist was today. What's chemistry? Maybe I want to learn more about that, or maybe I want to take a chemistry class or read a book or watch a documentary, or whatever that is, because there's no wrong way to expose yourself to knowledge. And there's a lot of opportunities out there, and we all learn differently and we all absorb information differently. So even if it's just you go back out there and you talk to another chemist, um, through our program, especially in Detroit, Chempreneurs, we're not saying you have to be a chemist. We're not saying you have to be an entrepreneur. When you go through this program, it's just about exposure. When you send your students through this program, it's about exposure. So they're not only meeting chemists and entrepreneurs, they're meeting people from all different aspects of business who are in science, technology, engineering, arts, or mathematics. Everything is included. So looking through those second Saturday presenters I mentioned, we had 30 different presenters across a
Wow.
diverse range in those 11 sessions. But in our programming, we bring in guest speakers. Sometimes weekly. We've had programs where every lesson there's been a guest speaker. Sometimes it's every other week. But all of those guest speakers that come in come from all different career facets of life. We've had people who are politicians. We've had people who are engineers. We've had people as entrepreneurs. We've had people that work in other areas of science, architects, tattoo artists. You don't have to limit yourself. You don't have to think, oh, I'm going to be a nurse, I'm going to be a teacher, and that's all that's out there. There is so much more out there and so
So
many things
much.
that when I was a student, I didn't even know that those things, existed. And I didn't know what a chemist was. I was told, you're going to be, you can be a doctor if you go to science, or you can be a nurse, or, but not that I could be a chemist and I could work in a lab and I can make these products, or I could test products, or use my creativity. I find myself to be a very creative person. I'm not an artist, but I'm creative in chemistry. I'm creative in my hobbies. I'm creative in how I work and interact with people in the world. And so Again, this program, our organization, and what we're trying to do within the community, don't feel like just because it says chempreneurist, it's just chemistry and entrepreneurship, because it's so much more than that. And all of those facets of STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, or entrepreneurship, arts, and mathematics are incorporated into this program and throughout the community work that we do. All right, Vanessa. So where are you at with your jar? What's it looking like now that I just gave my spiel?
Yeah, it's looking pretty good. I had
Looking
some pipe
pretty good.
cleaners on my desk, so I was gonna make a candy cane, but it was really
Oh,
big, so I made a little heart instead. And now I'm
yeah.
trying to figure out where I'm gonna glue this onto my jar at.
Pipe cleaner is it's a great idea. That's something that we didn't mention, but you could glue, cotton balls on the outside of your jar. I mentioned on the inside of your jar, you probably don't want to do stuff that's wet. But on the outside, absolutely, you can glue cotton balls. You could even add some fake snow or glitter to the outside of your jar. I did a little here while I was talking. I glued some white ribbon around the edge, and then I had this. It's actually I cut out like of a t-shirt sleeve, so like a thin sliver, so it's round. So if you have some scrap clothing around that maybe you can't wear because it's got holes in it, or it's dirty and you can't get that out, or it doesn't fit anymore, and it's just kind of reached its use and not donatable, you can always cut out the sleeves or cut up the t-shirts and use the fabric from there, and repurpose and reuse. Another thing about the program is, we try to be as environmentally sustainable as we can, reusing the things around us, using the things around us, and then thinking about sustainability throughout our business ventures and our product ideas. How can we make things more green? What does that mean? Looking at our environment, whether that's our processes, so how we do something, if we have to use a lot of equipment and it takes up a lot of electricity, or it gives off maybe some exhaust gas or things like that, how can we maybe change it so it's less electricity, less harmfulness to the environment? Same thing with our products. Water is a resource that we have, and we want to make sure we conserve it, maybe use less water in our products. And so thinking about, example, toothpaste. You buy toothpaste in a paste form, it's liquid, but there are alternatives out there, right? There's little pressed capsules or powder. Those don't have any water in them. They're less weight, they're cheaper to ship. We can save costs on that. They take up less space. Even with soap products, we're seeing a lot of soap type products come out, just tablets, right? And you drop it in water at home and you make it yourself. So all of these things kind of add into being environmentally friendly, in addition to things like our packaging, making our packaging compostable, recyclable, thinking about ways that we can engage with our consumers in our market to say, and a great example of this is MAC Cosmetics. You collect those tubes, those lipstick tubes, after you have used them, and you take them back into the store, and they will give you product or a discount. So lots of different opportunities to create sustainability ideas within your business, and engage your consumers in your market. So I think my globe has had a lot of time to dry, so I'm going to be the demonstrator. Vanessa, if you think your globe
Ooh,
is dry and ready to go,
I'm
feel free.
nervous.
Give it a little bit of time. You can. So we've got this here. So I'm going to go ahead and flip it and shake it up, and we can see my sequence and my oil and everything kind of floating around. Oh, I might have leaked. Did I leak? No. It's just this glue strands. They're taking me for a loop. So we can see all my stuff's kind of floating around in there. And yours might look a little different. Maybe you use some food coloring, maybe you used glitter, maybe your figurine's a little bit taller. Once you're sure that it's dry, this would kind of be how it goes on the table or whatever that is. Again, if you had glycerin or use something like that, it might look a little bit different. But it's pretty cool, huh? Make your own snow globe with some things you got around the house. What did yours do? Was your
It's
glue?
it's fine. It didn't leak, but I did it over my water, the pitcher I have my
That's a
water in, just
great
in case.
idea. If you are nervous that it's going to leak, first you could let it sit overnight to dry. You don't, no rush to flip this. I just wanted to demonstrate and kind of show you what it's going to look like when you do. It's going to settle, so you'll see that baby oil float to the top if that's what you use. If you use glycerin and water mixed, they're what we call soluble, whereas oil and water are insoluble. So you might not see a separation. If you use food color and maybe vegetable oil, you might see something different. So again, that's okay. If you don't like the way that your snow globe turned out this time, that's also okay too. You can make another one. You can start over. You can, real tough, break that hot glue or that super glue and use the same jar. Maybe you can't get that glue undone, but that's okay. Next time you finish that jar of jam or that's, whatever is in a glass jar, maybe it's a spice or something like that in your cabinet, you can make a globe out of that. I mean, spice jars are kind of small, right? This is some sage, but this could be a snow globe, I would recommend looking for something with maybe a metal bottom, just because with hot glue, sometimes plastic can melt. And even with some of the other stronger industrial glues that are polymers, they can also interact with the plastic and melt. So you just want to be careful about that. But all of this is trial and error. That's what entrepreneurship is about. So again, make another one if you think you want to try something a little bit different to have it turn out another way. You have that opportunity in the future for that. All right. So any other questions, comments, concerns about the snow globe? Anything from you, Vanessa? Thoughts on the activity overall?
That was fun. I also have hot glue strands all over my
Everywhere.
desk.
It's
Everywhere.
it,
It's
yeah,
everywhere.
it's everywhere. And be careful if you are using hot glue. I know I've burnt myself a couple of times already today. It's very easy to do, especially if you put the glue in the cap and you're screwing it shut. Just be careful and mindful of that. If you need to use like a heat resistant glove or something to protect yourself, think about those things when you're doing your crafts. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move to our final holiday craft today. We've got about 15 minutes left in this second Saturday session. So we'll kind of move through this one a little bit quicker than the other ones. However, this is something that we do in our program. This is the Detroit Chempreneurist, or the cast fry chemist bath bomb recipe. If you go online, there are many ways to make a bath bomb. There is no right or wrong way. So you may go through and you may make this bath bomb with me and Vanessa here and think, this didn't really turn out the way I wanted. It was kind of too crumbly. Didn't really smell like I thought it was going to do. Make some changes. Try another recipe. Prototyping, market research, brainstorming, testing, using that scientific method to hypothesize and draw conclusions after you do this experiment, because this really is an experiment at this time. We're kind of just playing around with things, seeing what works and what doesn't work. And again, this is something that we do with our students in the program. We give them that opportunity to play around with these formulations as well. So I have the supply list here. I'm going to go through it really quickly, and then I have another slide that gives us measurements. We are going to use the measurements this time. The measurements are to make one bath bomb. And also depending on the size of your mold, which I will get to here in a minute talking about, you might have a little bit extra, you might not have enough. So again, this is kind of a testing the theory, and you can adjust. Maybe you want more, double the recipe. Maybe you need less, half the recipe. We're using our math skills here. So that's, incorporated into the program through and through is that STEAM. So our supplies today are measuring cups or spoons. We're going to use a tablespoon, but if you scale this recipe up or down, you may use an actual cup or a teaspoon. Similar to a baking recipe, if you need twice as much, you double it. If you need half as much, you divide by 2. So maybe you need 4 times as much. You're going to be making bath bombs for everyone this holiday season, or the snowy season, or whatever you're calling it. So think about that. Think about your proportions and your measurements. And the next thing you're going to need is a mold. So this can be something that you order online. So let me I've got a couple. I'll lean over. So this time I didn't turn my screen off. I've got a couple different size plastic molds. This is actually like a plastic ornament type of mold. So you could get these online or at craft stores, where it could be used for an ornament. So you could glue it together and repurpose it after a mold. But it's just something that's round, has 2 halves, and that holds together. I've got a little bit of a smaller one here. This is actually purchased online on Amazon. And it is for a candy machine. So if you've ever put 25 cents in a candy machine and got a little ball that had something in it, same thing. So maybe you've got a bunch of those laying around at home because every time you go to the store, you have to put a quarter in and get a little prize. save those containers. Those can be used as bath bomb molds. You can also use a cupcake tray or a muffin tray. So you could, have your muffin tray and pack that full with your bath bomb mixture. You could use an ice cube tray, and that would work as well. They'd be smaller bath bombs, but or bigger. All different types of molds. They have all those silicone ice cube. What am I talking about? Molds. I'm apparently I want some ice cream right now. It doesn't sound too bad. But maybe you get the ones that look like a rubber ducky or a brain or whatever shape heart. So online you can search bath bomb molds. You could go to the dollar store, anything that you have around you, but you could also use something in your house. So don't feel like you have to go out and buy something to make a bath bomb. Most of these ingredients are things that you can get around the house. We'll go through them. Citric acid, it's not a common one that people have. However, it is available in baking stores. It is used in baking, candy making, and things like that. So if you have a candy making store, so that might not be something that you have around the house, but it is something that's accessible and you can get it online. Baking soda. So a lot of people have that in their kitchen. They use it maybe for baking, but we're going to be using it for bath bombs. Bath bombs are an acid and a base reaction. So we'll talk a little chemistry. Citric acid is an acid. Baking soda or sodium bicarbonate is a base. So when you have those two together and you throw them in the water, that's why you get that bubbling and that fizzing action. Epsom salt, you could use that. Again, here's something that could be a foot scrub, but we're also going to use it in our bath bomb. Epsom salt is very relaxing. It's very soothing. And since we're going to be taking a bath, a lot of people already incorporate that into their baths. The next thing is cornstarch. So that's going to be our binder today. And then from there, we have our wet ingredients. So we have isopropyl alcohol. You can get that. People have it in their bathroom, in their medicine cabinet, in their closets at home, but also you can get that in the pharmacy section of a store. Coconut oil, and then optional are some essential oils and herbs. So Vanessa, if you want to go ahead to the next slide and share our measurements.
Yeah, so for our bath bomb, we are going to use 3 tablespoons. Or is that, I think that might be correct.
Tablespoons.
Yep, 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, 3 tablespoons of citric acid, 3 tablespoons of Epsom salt, 5 tablespoons of baking soda, 3 tablespoons of coconut oil. And then we have our optional ingredients. So if we're going to use a fragrance, we'll only use about 2 or 3 drops. If we're using a concentrated dye, they make dyes for soaps. I think that's what we use here at Detroit Chempreneurist. We'll use about 2 or 3 drops of those. And then lastly, we are going to use 2 tablespoons of isopropyl alcohol. And so we're going to mix that all together. Mix it really good, make it a homogeneous mixture. We want to make sure it's really super mixed before we pack it into our molds. And I think Cass might walk us through that.
I'm going to walk us through this real quickly. Thank you for reading those out, and thank you for everyone watching, letting me work myself out, but also grab my ingredients. So the first thing that we're going to do for our bath bomb is we're going to mix all of our dry ingredients together. We have 4 dry ingredients. That's cornstarch, citric acid, Epsom salt, and baking soda. So I have my tablespoon here. I got my cornstarch. Get this at the grocery store. Maybe you already have some at home. This is a very light powder. So when I open this jar, stuff goes everywhere. So you want to be careful with this. Just because it is so light, it can come airborne. And it's like flour. It goes like everywhere. So I'm going to be super careful while doing this. And I actually have to even open this jar, so I would be a little bit more careful. And I'm spilling cornstarch all over me. All right, so here's my tablespoon. I'm gonna get 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. You want to fill it right up to the top. You don't want to go, too much over or too under. You want to make sure you have a nice amount. I have cornstarch on my keyboard. There we go. 2. And my third one, another nice flat scoop. So that's into my mixing bowl. So I just have a little paper bowl, but you could use a bowl from the kitchen. You could use also a recycled container. So maybe you had maybe you made some sour cream. That was a good one that Vanessa used earlier. Maybe got a sour cream container. that's big enough for what we're going to be doing in the single bath bomb side of things. The next thing is my citric acid. So I've got this big old bag of citric acid. As a chemist, I always have this around, but we also serve a lot of students, so we needed a large amount. You don't have to have this huge bag of citric acid. You could get a smaller amount online or at your local grocery store. Can't, if you have a baking store or something like that. So we're going to do 3 tablespoons of citric acid. Same, we want to fill right up to the top. So I've got 1, 2, and my third one coming in here. Citric acid is very sweet. It is the ingredient that is used in sour candy to give you that sour sensation in your mouth. You will notice when you open the bag and you start pouring it, you're like, I can taste this. It's not going to hurt you that you can taste it, but it is very unique. You get that sweetness, that sourness. Do not eat the citric acid straight. It's not very pleasant to eat it. Even though, you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to try it. Don't recommend that at all. But if you're using some candy making or something like that, you might incorporate it into the candy and then eat it. Our third ingredient is going to be Epsom salt. So got this big old bag that you can find at your local grocery store or pharmacy store. You don't have to, again, maybe you have this at home. We're going to do 3 tablespoons of this. So 1, 2, and I'm going to have to clean my desk after this. Citric acid, or not citric acid, excuse me, Epsom salt can chunk up like this. You want to make sure you don't get any chunks, but we're also going to mix this and break it up in a second. So if you do, that's okay. And then our final thing is baking soda for our dry ingredient. So again, I'm just coming in clutch with big bags today, but we've got baking soda. Maybe you have this in your kitchen, maybe you don't, but pretty easy to get, dollar store, online, or at your local grocery store. So this is going to be 5 tablespoons. I'm going to do this real quick, and I'm going to have to clean after this, so that's okay. 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're also not going to want to eat the baking soda. It has a bitter taste, so you're not going to like it. You put it in your mouth, you're going to be like, this was a poor decision. So again, you might eat some of these ingredients in actual food products. They are also used in cosmetic products. Treat them as if they are non-edible. So now that I have all of my solids in this bowl, I'm just going to take a spoon. I'm going to mix everything together. We're going to use that homogeneous word again. If you had some Epsom salt chunks, stab them, break them up, but get everything in here mixed. And it's going to look, it's going to be a white powder. The cornstarch is a little bit more beige that I'm using, but you can kind of see some of the crystals and things like that. So really incorporate this all together. Just, in a small amount, doesn't take too long. Make sure you get the sides of the bowl. You're going to want to make sure that when you make your bath bomb, everything is mixed evenly so that you get a nice uniform reaction when you put this in the tub. So I've got that mixed. Next, we're going to go ahead and use our wet ingredients. So here we have shown IPA and concentrated dye, fragrance, and coconut oil. If you don't have a dye or a fragrance, you can use an essential oil, but you can also just add a little bit of water. So we're going to incorporate a little bit of water in this. I know it's not listed here, but just so you can see at home what that looks like. So first thing is the coconut oil. I've got this coconut oil. You can get it at the grocery store. You might have it in your cabinet at home. You might even, some people just use coconut oil as a moisturizer. So it might already be something that you're using as a lotion. So you don't have to get it out of your kitchen if that's the case. And I got to open it again. I apparently brought all of the brand new jars to this event today. I'm going to scoop out 3 tablespoons. This is going to be kind of a little bit harder. If you want, you can heat this up in the microwave beforehand to make it a little bit liquidy. So there's 1, there's 2, and 3. So once I've got my coconut oil in, I'm going to go ahead and add my isopropyl alcohol. So I've got this little jar or this little bottle of it right here. I got this at Costco. We're going to do 2 tablespoons of this, 1 and 2. And since I'm not going to use a concentrated dye today, I'm going to use about a 1/2 tablespoon of water. then I'm going to add in. So it's just going to be like a couple drops. So I'm going to fill this up halfway, and I'm going to add this in there. Now, something that I am going to use today is I'm actually, instead of using fragrance, I'm going to incorporate some sage into my bath bomb. So you can use lemon zest, you can use lemon juice, any types of things that you have. So I'm going to add that in there. You're going to notice a little bit of bubbling. So you can't really see it, but my water and my isopropyl alcohol is mixing with my citric acid and my baking soda, and it's bubbling. We want to limit the bubbling. The more bubbling that happens in this this bowl, the less bubbling that's going to happen in our bathtub, because that means this reaction, this chemical acid-base reaction, has already occurred. So once you get it all mixed up, it's going to look something like moon sand. So everybody can kind of see, maybe ice cream, because I was talking about ice cream earlier. You can kind of when you pick it up, it'll kind of like clump together, kind of like Play-Doh or sand. So once you're at that stage, everything is mixed. You're going to be ready to go into your mold. Again, you could add essential oils. I have in the program, you can get these online, soap fragrances. So can you see that? Soap fragrances. You could use a soap fragrance. You can also get online soap coloring. So probably can't see it. I don't know. It says soap coloring, but you could use that. You could use food coloring, all different types of things. You know, maybe you want to even incorporate like sage leaves, like a full sage leaf in your bath bomb, or a piece of lavender you could stick in there when you put it in your mold. Once you have this mixture made, you're going to take your bath bomb mold. So whatever you're using, if it's something that looks like this, if it's an ice cube tray, if it's a muffin tray, you're going to grease it with coconut oil. You're going to heavily grease it just like you were baking something. So that way, after it hardens, you can get it out. All right, so take my coconut oil, grease my mold really good, whatever that looks like, and then I'm going to pack my bath bomb mixture into my mold. If I'm using a 2-part mold, when I pack it in, I'm going to leave a little bit hanging out the top. The reason for that is because when I close it together, I want to twist it. I want to make sure both halves are going to connect really well. So once that's done, we're just going to, whether we wrap it in tape, we want to make sure our mold stays together in case our mixture is expanding a little bit. We're going to let it sit for 24 hours, and then we're going to take it out of the mold. So that is the bath bomb process.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So again, unique, make it however you want it to be. This is kind of the base formula, but there are other ideas and options out there online. So yeah, that is our final craft today. We're going to leave you with that one. We're not going to take time to continue going on it. So if you're still mixing things, that's okay. Take your time and do it. Feel free to take a picture of this recipe or screenshot it or whatever you need to do. So that way you can finish this at home. And again, be creative. Excuse me. Make it a different color. You're not going to want to use too much dye. Again, these are just a couple of drops because you don't want to turn your skin blue while you're taking a bath.
Although that would be very interesting if that did
you would
happen.
come out a Smurf, right? All right. So with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up Second Saturday. Are there any additional questions about any of the crafts that we did today about the bath bomb? I know we kind of breezed through that one, but it does take a little bit more time. And so we want to make sure that we're respectful of everyone's time and space who's joining us here today, in addition to those other crafts. And so feel free to come off of mute or drop something in the chat, or, Vanessa, do you have any questions or comments for us today?
This was really fun. I had a great time making all these crafts. As an adult, sometimes I don't take the time to sit down and use my creativity skills and be hands-on. So this was a nice time to focus and be creative and create some things that bring me some joy. So I really enjoyed myself today.
Absolutely. And sometimes you just need to take a Saturday afternoon to do some self-care, some crafts, have some fun. All of these things, as mentioned, can be business ventures, business ideas. They can be just for you. They can be for the people that you love or you want to share with around you. So take it in, be creative, maybe twist our ideas, come up with something new. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, whether that's through info@detroitchempreneurs.org, through our website, through our link tree. I'll drop the link tree in the chat for everyone so you have access to that. And again, that's where all of our social media and everything is. And so with that being said, we're going to go ahead, since I don't see any questions in the chat, or no one has come off mute, I'm going to assume everyone is good to go. Vanessa is going to go ahead and share with you other ways you can help the organization.
Yeah, so here at Detroit Chempreneurs, we're always actively looking for participating classrooms, schools, organizations to host our workshops so we can come in. Maybe we can make a body scrub with your students. Maybe we can make that bath bomb a little bit longer time to do that. We could do visioning boards on our entrepreneurship side. We could make prototypes. Whatever that looks like, we're always looking for places to do that with students and even adults. Maybe you want to bring us into your organization as a fun little self-care activity for your employees. We offer dynamic programming to cater to your STEAM needs. So feel free to email us, reach out to us at info@detroitchempreneurs.org or on our website. Some other ways to help is to help us engage in our research through our focus groups and surveys. I think Cass mentioned that earlier, that they're on our website, also on our link tree. You can connect with us with resources to help fund our efforts. We're always looking for grant funding, any sort of funding so that we can continue to reach out to students and engage them with personal care chemistry and entrepreneurship. You can spread the word, tell people about our organization, what we are, what we do, what we're trying to do. We would love that. And then lastly, feel free to visit our link tree. There, you can see the link there at the bottom. You can also Google Linktree Detroit Chempreneurs. It pops up right away. And then that can get you to our website, our social media, our events, whatever we have going on, we keep that up to date. And so we really would love for you to be involved in any capacity that you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, just to kind of round out second Saturday, a couple more things that we want to share with you. Please like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube. All of our second Saturdays have been posted there. We also have additional resources about our programs. And in the future, we'll continue to post things like guest speakers, presentations, example lessons, all different types of resources for our community. So don't forget to go subscribe, because then you'll get the alerts when something new posts up. Next up, I want to share with you and just wish you a happy holiday, and whatever you're celebrating, as we talked about this entire thing, or whatever you're not celebrating, just enjoy this time of year. Kind of take that time to recenter and reflect on 2022. And we look forward to seeing you all in the new year. And so have a wonderful rest of your Saturday. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time and support, and we look forward to the future and what that holds.
Thanks, y'all.